I watched a very controversial movie, and it was boring. Cannibal Holocaust, released in 1980, is renowned for being gross, edgy, and offensive. And you know what? It is. This movie follows a rescue team led by a professor who are looking for a missing film crew in the Amazon rainforest. They discover footage that the film crew shot. This footage is played throughout the movie. I want to start this video off by saying I love horror movies, but I just can't respect this type of horror movie, and I think you'll understand why by the end of it. We're going to start off with something lighthearted. We're going to start off with animal cruelty. Real animals were killed for this movie, and it's very obvious it was just for the shock value. It does not drive the story forward whatsoever. I will be describing these scenes, so if you're sensitive to animal cruelty, I'm going to put a timestamp and you can skip ahead if you'd like. The first animal to show up, in the movie they called it a muskrat, but I don't think that guy was a muskrat. It was killed from multiple stabs in the throat. Very clear it wasn't painless. I don't think any of these killings were painless. None of them were quick and easy. The second animal to die was a turtle. It was partially severed by the neck with a machete, and then it seemed like they were having some trouble getting through, so they started sawing through the neck. Then they began to rip it apart, but it seems like there was no pain after this. The turtle was still moving, but that's just, leftover movement. It was dead at this point, and then they started disemboweling it. Next, in one scene, a tarantula and a boa constrictor were both killed with a machete. I feel like the filmmakers could have stopped it there. They could have killed a spider and a snake, and it wouldn't have been controversial. It wouldn't have been as shocking, which, that's why they didn't stop there. They wanted it to be shocking, but people, I assume, are more used to seeing those animals die. They're more pests than, like, a muskrat or whatever that was. But I don't know, it's just too many animals for my taste. Hot take, but hey, too many animals to die in a movie. Now in this next scene, they kill a monkey. I specify scene because they actually had to redo this shot multiple times, therefore killing multiple monkeys. They chopped at the head with a machete, and screeching could be heard, but honestly that screeching could have been added in post. I'm not very sure. The movie was very blurry. I couldn't really tell if the monkey was actually screeching. And it had been reported that the natives did eat the monkey brains, so at least that wasn't totally a waste. I don't know. This is just a lot, man. This last one, I think it's the least brutal, but definitely not the least cruel. They kicked a pig, shot it, and then the pig was still squealing. Again, could have been added in post, but I don't think they killed the pig. I think they shot it and it got hurt. And I don't recall if they finished it off. I would have wrote it in my notes if they did. So they just shot a pig and they called it a day. Personally, I'm not that sensitive to animal violence. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm one that it's still a little off, but like I'm not throwing up or feeling queasy or anything. But it still felt really odd. Like, it didn't fit the movie. Like, plot, animal dies, plot. Like, it just didn't make any sense, really. I get that they're in the jungle and, that's how they eat, but it's not driving the plot, so why put it in? Now it's time to discuss sexual assault. I will be calling it SA for the rest of the video. I honestly don't have very much notes on this at all, but again, if you are sensitive to this topic, go ahead and skip ahead with this timestamp. I understand. If I was watching this video, I probably would too. But I feel like it's really important to state that no genuine physical harm was done to these actors. I don't have the DVD to this movie, but supposedly there's an interview on it where one of the actors was extremely upset about the SA scene he had to do, and it ended up affecting him outside of filming. Again, I don't have this footage. I don't know if he expands on that. I don't know if this is true, but there it is. So I really, again, did not take much of any notes on this because I hated this. I ended up stopping watching the movie and resuming it a few days later after the second assault, because I can't handle these at all. So there were 4 SA scenes. 2 of them were very brutal and involved beating and cutting open women. I do recall that one of them was a result of adultery, but that's all I remember. The next 2 scenes I did not take notes on at all. I do remember them not being as brutal as the first 2, but again, it's still SA, it's still nasty. Obviously not everyone is going to be as affected to these scenes as I am, just like how I wasn't that affected to the animal cruelty. It's just everyone is affected differently. But I hate this. I do not like SA in movies unless it's so necessary, unless it's telling the story of an SA. These really, again, just like the animal cruelty, they had no use being in there. It's just really so unnecessary, and I can't state that enough, and I know you're sick of hearing me say that, but oh my gosh. The next topic we're going to discuss is the natives. Now, this movie was filmed in the Amazon rainforest, and they used natives as actors, who, from what I read, were not paid in any way, other than the monkey brains, I guess. I'm going to assume that the natives were part of the Yanomami group, which is who they are portraying in the movie. Throughout the movie, the natives are described as savage, primitive, and living in the Stone Age, which is just insane to hear. This movie was made in the 80s, so we have to understand that people looked at people like the Yanomami differently. There was much less known about them. I just see it as harmful to call somebody backwards or uncivilized or any of these terms used simply because they live differently from us. And to top it all off, the Yanomami were portrayed as cannibals who brutally kill and eat people who come in contact with them. There is some truth to this, but it's a lot less sensational than how the movie portrayed it. The Yanomami actually practice endo-cannibalism. I'm sure a lot of people don't know what endo-cannibalism is. I had to look it up, and it's so not the stereotypical uncontacted tribe who are eating and killing people. It's much more pleasant, if you can call it that. So, endo-cannibalism. They consume the ashes of people in their community who have died, which seems to be a way for them to honor and remember the deceased. They do not consume people outside of their tribe. This is exclusively in the tribe to stay connected with the deceased. Now, this topic is what everybody, I think, knows about Cannibal Holocaust, if you know anything about Cannibal Holocaust. It is the snuff allegations. This was such a huge concern that all copies of the movie were confiscated, and Ruggero Deodato, the director, was charged with obscenity and murder. Now, obscenity, that's not a huge charge in my opinion. Like, John Waters was charged with obscenity for Pink Flamingos, which I totally get. I did not enjoy that movie either. But the murder is really what gets me. People thought this was real. People thought the actors died. And all charges were dropped after he explained how the infamous impalement scene was done and proved that the actors were still alive. He actually had to parade the actors in the courtroom to show they were alive. He planned on keeping them in hiding, basically, for a year after the movie was released, so people thought it was real, but people thought it was so real that he had to end that plan real quick. So those are all the points I wanted to talk about. Now I'm going to talk about my personal feelings. I think this movie is hyped up way too much. yeah, it is offensive and gross and weird, and that's what everybody talks about when they say, oh, you gotta check this out, this is crazy. And yeah, it was, but the rest of it was so boring. When I was watching it and taking notes, I just like swiveling in my chair waiting for the next notable thing to happen because it was so boring. And to the people giving this movie 5 stars, genuinely why? You enjoyed that? Like, again, take away the actual story and the plot, the bad story, bad plot, boring plot. You're just left with obscenity, and you liked that? That is such edgelord behavior. Like, oh yeah, I liked seeing that turtle die. I liked seeing simulated SA. Like, that's so weird to enjoy. The special effects were not very good either. There were like 3 good, extremely good special effects scenes. Those parts I enjoyed. But then the rest were bad. So you had the ability to make good gore, and then you just gave up after those 3 scenes. I think if you want to watch anything from this movie, seek out the impalement scene, the one that the director had to recreate to prove he didn't impale a woman. I think it was so well done. It's so iconic. Another thing from this movie that was genuinely enjoyable was the soundtrack. It was so good. The intro theme, I genuinely listened to that. That might end up on my Spotify Wrapped, I won't lie. So, long story short, is this movie offensive? Yes. Is this movie interesting? No. Should you watch it?
Maybe.
But I feel like you just waste your time. Yeah. I'm so glad to be done with this, oh my gosh. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you appreciate all the time I put into it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.